All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Brad Waldschmidt. I'm an engineer that works with the Nashville Department of Transportation on their neighborhood street traffic calming program. And tonight we're here to talk about Cabot Drive. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us. I'll allow my colleague Lan to unmute herself and introduce herself as well. Lan?
Hi everyone, my name's Lan. I'm with Kinley Horn as well, and I'm gonna help out Brad. Um, I'm gonna monitor any questions you have during the presentation. If you wanna send those in to the chat if you think of something, or you can also just wait till the end of the presentation. We'll answer your questions.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, we're here. I think we met back in May or June for our first meeting of Cabot Drive. I can't remember the exact date. And since then, we've been working on the Cabot Drive design and about 25 other streets also throughout Nashville for some traffic calming designs on them as well. So we've been working on all the streets, including Cabot Drive. And here tonight is our second meeting. We want to actually show that design and talk about what some of the next steps are, what the voting ballot process is like for uh, residential owners along the street who'll get to vote on whether they want some of this traffic calming. So what we're going to do is we'll take about a 12 or 15-minute presentation to kind of talk through everything. You all may have questions along the way. If you do have questions, we want to ask you to do one of two things, please. The first is if you want to wait till the end of the 12 or 15-minute presentation, you can come off and mute. We will answer as many questions as you have, or comments or discussion points. The other option is in the WebEx in the bottom right corner, there's a chat button. You can just type a chat at any moment during the presentation, and we'll make sure at the end that we get to it. So that's kind of what we want to do. Before we start, I do want to recognize Councilmember Horton. I just want to give you the floor. Do you have any introductory remarks, Councilmember Horton, that you'd like to offer?
No, apart from thank you for hosting this presentation, and look forward to hearing from you. And for those of you I haven't met before, it's great to meet you over video conference.
Excellent. All right, and Councilmember Horton, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. I want to make sure. Can you confirm that the presentation slide is back up?
Yes, we can see.
All right. Thank you very much for the tech confirmation there. All right. So, what is traffic calming? We are focused on at the neighborhood street traffic calming program on residential streets, and we're focusing on really looking for physical solutions that are going to lower those vehicle speeds over a significant length of the road. We like to refer to the 3 E's of traffic calming. The first is education. This meeting is a great example of that education. We as the engineers can educate you all on some of the traffic calming options that could work to lower vehicle speeds. And you all being the experts of your street because you live there, you know Cabot Drive. We know it as engineers, but you all live it. So we're a great team when we're working together, and this kind of education is a great example of that. The second E is enforcement. Enforcing the posted speed limit is absolutely a part of traffic calming. However, it's something that NDOT, the Nashville Department of Transportation, doesn't have as much jurisdiction over. So while enforcement's important, NDOT doesn't really do the enforcement part. But what we can do is this third E, that's the engineering, something that can be done to the roads, the streets, to try to encourage lower vehicle speeds. This is a big reason why the traffic calming program is such a big deal to Nashville. Safety and the vision of having 0 deaths on our streets. If something really unfortunate happened, like a pedestrian gets hit by a vehicle and that car is going 25 miles per hour, that pedestrian has an 89% chance of surviving that crash. But if you go to the far right there, if that same car is going 45 miles per hour, that awful crash where a pedestrian gets hit, that pedestrian has a 35% chance of survival. This is why the traffic calming program is working hard, NDOT, the engineers, the council, to really lower speeds on residential streets because of this right here. Because we don't want any crashes, we don't want pedestrians to get hit, but if something awful like that happens, we want to really reduce these vehicle speeds so that pedestrian has a better chance of survival. So that's a big reason why the traffic calming program, why it's here in Nashville. This is a little outdated now, but as of February, over 460 streets had been applied for traffic calming. And back in February, 26 of those streets were chosen through a prioritization process, Cabot Drive being one of those 26. So a lot of demand, a lot of citizens want lower speeds. 26 were chosen, and we're talking about one of those today, Cabot. So we're here to talk about traffic calming, but you may have other questions or other comments that are not traffic calming. That's why we like to make sure that everybody's aware of Hub Nashville. You can either go to hub.nashville.gov or you can call 311. This could be for things like if you think there needs to be some extra stop signs, if you notice a traffic signal is malfunctioning or a storm drain inlet is blocked, anything that you think the city or NDOT needs to know about, 311 or hubnashville.gov. Those are your best ways to get anything else that you may notice just on a daily routine. But if it's traffic calming, Lane and I, we're your people. We're here for you. But it's like make sure everybody knows about all these other topics you may have. So here's a map of Cabot Drive. I know you all know where this is, but we're engineers. We love our maps. So we are looking at the extent of Cabot Drive from the south there, kind of near the bottom, near where Charlotte Pike, right near that interchange, all the way along Cabot Drive, up and down the hills, all the way to where it ends at the stop sign up to the north there at Annex. So we're looking at basically the entirety of Cabot Drive. Now when we had our first meeting, we had not done our site visit yet. We kind of knew some of the characteristics of Cabot, but yeah, we knew Cabot was hilly, but then we went out and did our site visits and we confirmed some of those hills. So we looked at that. We looked at a few other attributes, and we've come up with our traffic design for Cabot Drive. That's what we want to present to you now for what we've designed. We've designed two different things. The first are these speed cushions. These are probably the more popular, more common traffic calming measure throughout Nashville. They're these black rubberized devices. At their highest above the pavement, they're about 3 inches. You'll see they get installed in sets like that with little gaps in the middle. Or between them. The gaps are there for emergency vehicles. The front axles of emergency vehicles, the wheels are a little wider on the front. So the emergency vehicles, the front wheels can actually straddle these speed cushions and their tires can go on the gaps. Now the back tires, usually because there's so much weight, whether it's an ambulance or a fire truck, they do have extra tires. So their tires may go over these speed cushions, but it's usually kind of along the left and right edges of the cushion where the ramp ups are. It's not, right the full, I guess, going over the cushion. So, these do have an impact to emergency vehicles, but it's a reduced impact to something like a speed table that would go across the entire width of the pavement. So these are various different designs of speed cushions, and we'll show you kind of what exactly we're proposing in a moment. NDOT has done some before and after studies just to determine if these speed cushions are working, and they are. Many streets that have been collected throughout Nashville, whether it's the average speed or that 85th percentile speed, which is something us engineers look at, you can see the before and after. It's making a difference. It's doing what we think it should, and that's why that's just more motivation for us to keep trying to calm traffic, residential streets like Cabot Drive. So there's another tool that we're proposing on part of the street, and it's these radar feedback signs. It's the speed limit sign with that electronic readout. It reports your speed. I believe the ones that Nashville orders, once that number goes above the posted speed limit, it turns red to sort of give the motorist an indication that you're not just doing something you shouldn't. I think I've seen some in other cities where it actually flashes at you, the number flashes. In Nashville, they have the ones that turn red. These can also be very effective in certain locations. And we're going to just walk through the design now and kind of talk through why certain things have been designed in certain spots. So as we walk through the design, this is a very zoomed out graphic. It may be even very difficult for some of you to see. This first sheet is more zoomed out, but then the next 4 sheets are going to be zoomed in very close. The biggest takeaway I want everyone to kind of see is if you see a yellow trapezoid with a C, that's a location where we're proposing speed cushions. on Cabot Drive. So real quick, I'm counting 8 total, kind of 2 near where the apartments are, and then more where I'd call it the single family residential area of Cabot Drive, kind of on the northeast. I'm counting 6 locations of speed cushions. And then you'll see there's another graphic there. There's 3 orange diamonds with an R in them. Those are radar feedback signs. We are proposing radar feedback signs for locations where Cabot is just too steep. There is such a thing as putting speed cushions on too steep of a road, and that's why we don't do it. You know, these speed cushions get bolted into the road, and if it's too steep of an angle, they could shear off and cause some damage. So we measured the grades, and where we physically are not able to propose the speed cushions, we're putting those radar feedback signs. But we've located these speed cushions where they are appropriate. So 3 locations of feedback signs, 8 cushions, or 8 locations of speed cushions. And what we want to do now is we're going to start down at the bottom end, the south end at Charlotte Pike. And we're going to kind of zoom in on a little more detail of where these locations are. So starting from the left of this sheet, you'll see there's 2 radar feedback signs, basically aiming for people when they're going down the hill, because that's where we feel like, you know, when you're going down the hill, it's a little harder to kind of control that speed. So 2 feedback signs as you're going down the hill, going towards Charlotte Pike there. And you'll see it's our first location of speed cushions on the right. It's kind of just south of that apartment driveway at the Bells Bluff 7600 driveway. We were able to find a spot where it wasn't too steep yet, so we've proposed a speed cushion there. I'm going to go to the next slide, which is going to keep working our way north and east up Cabot Drive. So here you see another speed cushion location, kind of near where the views on the Cumberland 2 are, near that driveway. And then as a car is going north or east on Cabot Drive past that point, it starts getting steep. It's another steep downhill. So that's why we've proposed another radar feedback sign, since it's too steep for cushions, but we wanted to really do something to remind the motorist of what they should be doing. So there's that 3rd radar feedback sign for that downhill. Now we're going to go to the next sheet, and now we're going to enter more of a speed cushion. We're going to see 6 locations of speed cushions, more in the Upton lane up toward Annex. So there's going to be there's speed cushion location. You'll see these warning signs. We often propose these warning signs with just like it shows there, the word speed cushion with the speed that's recommended over them, just to make sure motorists are aware they're coming up. So starting on the left, we have a set of speed cushions proposed at 6645 Cabot Drive. Then the next set is proposed at 6624 Cabot Drive. And then the next set is proposed in front of 6601 Cabot Drive. And when I'm saying those street addresses, those are just to align people. What we typically try to do is put them far enough away from people's residential driveways. We're definitely not proposing these like right in front of your driveway. We're not doing that, but we do position them between driveways a certain distance away. So these are just sort of one of the closer street addresses. That's why we're calling out those numbers, just to give people context. So I'm going to go to the next slide now. Here's the remaining 3 locations until we get to Annex there. So starting on the left, we have a speed cushion set proposed at 6579 Cabot Drive. Then one set proposed, it's almost 400 feet north of Upton Lane. I want to say I don't really have a good landmark because it kind of gets away from the driveways there, but you can kind of see it's that middle one. And then we have another set kind of as we get close to Annex Avenue there. And then what we have here is, if you were kind of to fly above the speed cushions and look straight down, this is what some of them would look like. You know, Cabot Drive changes as far as pavement width. And so we try to make sure we design our speed cushions in a way so that cars have to go over the cushions, that they cannot easily go around them. So this is just a simple kind of a schematic. It's more for our contractor when they go out and install them, they know where to put them, but I'd like to show this as well. So I've got a few more slides, kind of want to talk through process, what the balloting and voting is going to look like. And we are absolutely going to answer questions. We can go back to the design. We can answer all sorts of questions. Just got a few more. So here we are at meeting 2. The next step is the online ballot. It's very exciting. If you are a residential property owner along Cabot Drive, you will get the chance to vote. And you will get the chance to vote on whether you want the traffic calming design or not. Now, the radar feedback signs, those are actually going to happen either way. So whether it's a yes vote or a no vote, the radar feedback signs in those 3 locations, they're happening. They're going to happen. The speed cushions are what's up for the vote. And so what we'll do in the next few weeks after this meeting, we will send another set of mailer ballots out, just like the mailers that we hope you got for tonight's meeting. It'll be a mailer ballot. It'll look kind of like what's in that upper left corner. There'll be a QR code or a website you can go to. You'll even have your own secret and unique ID code that's specific to each person, so we can kind of make sure that the votes are valid and authentic. And that website will take you to that screenshot that's on the bottom left, where you can actually fill out your name, your address, your ballot. We'll have a link to this design that we just walked through, so that if you want to look at the design again before you're voting, or if someone wants to vote but didn't make it to this meeting, they'll still be able to click on the link and open up the design we just went through. But every residential property owner that has property touching Cabot Drive will get the ability to vote yes, they want this traffic calming design, or no, they do not. And we'll keep that voting open for 6 weeks. And then at the end of that, we'll count the votes. And if 2/3 of those who respond vote yes, then the speed cushions are going to happen. But if the 2/3 of the responses are not yes, then the speed cushions will not happen. And what we'll do is we'll work with the lead applicant and council member on an alternative design that doesn't put something in the road, perhaps more radar feedback signs. That could be kind of, I call it the backup plan. But we think speed cushions are going to be the most effective at slowing traffic, and that's what we're going to be putting up to a vote to the residential property owners along Cabot Drive. This gives you a visual for kind of what we call the ballot zone. I think there's a couple of vacant pieces of land. I'm looking at the very upper right corner there. I believe that's a bunch of woods. That probably will not receive a vote. The apartment complexes, like to make sure people understand that. It is a 1 vote per property owner, not resident, not renter. It's 1 vote per property owner. So for those apartment complexes, you'll see they're really just one big land parcel. That means the apartment complex does get 1 vote, but it's 1 vote. It's not 1 vote per resident. So we do it based on the parcel or the property, not necessarily how many people are living on that parcel. And I'm trying to make sure, business. I don't think we have any businesses on Cabot Drive, but some neighborhood streets in Nashville do have that. So businesses do not receive a vote. Someone may correct me. I cannot think of any churches or schools either, but churches or schools for streets that do have them also do receive 1 vote. But I don't think that's pertinent here. So I think second to last slide here. So in the next few weeks, what we're planning on doing is sending out those mailer ballots. And then we'll have that voting open for 6 weeks. And at the end, if the vote is successful, if the design we've put forth is successful, then NDOT is going to take care of it all. Now, what we're seeing right now is with what's going on with the economy and everything, it's taken about up to 4 months to actually get the devices in, to actually get the materials delivered to Nashville Department of Transportation. And then on top of that, it's taking another up to 4 months for the contractors to install these. Now, there's good and bad news with that. The bad news is that's kind of a long time. The good news is the traffic calming program has become so popular. There's so many speed cushions that are getting voted yes, that the contractors are so busy installing these things. So that's one of the reasons why those times are so long. But I will say NDOT's also looking at ways to reduce those time frames. But we want to come with you with a very realistic time frame of what we're seeing with the popularity and just sort of what's going on with all these traffic calming programs. So that's the end of our presentation. I want to make sure we open up for questions. Lan, I think I'm going to go to you first. Could you read off if there have been any questions in the chat box?
Yes. So Travis asked 2 questions. First one is, what data what data do you have on the damage these speed cushions are going to do to my car with daily use?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the answer is we don't have any data. I'm happy to review and receive that data, though, if you do have that. We definitely understand that's a concern that speed cushions in the road, there may be a concern that could cause damage to the car. I'm not aware of any reports of damage to cars because of the speed cushions. But we are, and I will say on behalf of NDOT, we are very willing to like receive that studies or data or learn more if there's something that we're not aware of. But so far, I'm not aware of anything, and I personally haven't heard any reports of damage to these. Usually, people are grateful for the lower speeds. So that's my honest answer. I just haven't heard of anything like that.
Yeah, he said that in addition to that question, he said, I'm not an engineer, but isn't this vital information you should provide to homeowners prior to a vote?
Yeah, so I'll say that we are very confident in the speed cushions to be effective in slowing traffic. And based on our research, we're not aware of any data that points to speed cushions causing a lot of damage to vehicles. But I'm acknowledging humility and saying always willing to learn something new or receive data that we don't have, but haven't heard any of that in our experience with traffic calming program.
Yeah, and I think the idea of speed cushions, if this is any help for you, Travis, is that they should be, if they are used correctly, which is to slow speeds down, it shouldn't, it should have less impact on your suspension and other things or discomfort if you were to fly through them. So that would be more effective in slowing down the speeds, hopefully. Um, and then his next question was, why not add stop signs at Cabot and Upton?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Also, we do get asked about more stop signs. We do not look at stop signs for the traffic calming program because usually there needs to be a traffic engineering study to determine whether a stop sign is warranted or not. So we in the traffic calming program, we do not consider stop signs. They really need to be where a study shows they should be. I will say as a traffic engineer, um, two things that give me a lot of concern are motorists that run red lights and motorists that run stop signs. And what I have observed and heard repeatedly through these neighborhood meetings is that many neighborhoods have two different types of streets, either a street where neighbors want more stop signs because they think that it'll help calm traffic, or streets have lots of all-way stops and ask us how can we help them get people to stop running the all-way stops. And so what we've learned is that stop signs necessarily don't solve the problem of traffic calming. In fact, sometimes it can actually make it worse if drivers start disrespecting that stop sign, just blow through it, but everybody else thinks they're going to stop. So that is a great tool, though, where you can go to 311 or you can go to hubnashville.gov. And there are people at NDOT that do study those stop signs to see if Cabot at Upton actually is a good spot for the stop sign. So that may be, but it won't be part of our traffic calming program.
And he also asked, what's the difference in cost/benefit analysis of adding the cushions versus stop signs with the analysis you mentioned? If one of the
Gotcha.
E's is enforcement, can't we look into that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure I understand the premise, because if we had a stop sign but no one's there to enforce it, then what good have we done? So, and again, we're in the traffic calming program to slow cars with speed cushions along the entirety of the street. We don't just want to try to focus on one intersection at Upton and that's it. We're looking to calm traffic and vehicle speeds along the entirety of Cabot Drive. So again, traffic calming design we feel good about. I encourage you to go to 311 or hubnashville.gov for that stop sign request, and they'll do a study. But yeah, those are kind of two different things. We're not going to be looking at stop signs for traffic calming because they have not proven to be effective at slowing cars down just by adding some stop signs.
Looks like those are all of our questions, unless you had any additional questions, Travis.
Excellent. Yeah, happy to hear more questions, or people can come off of mute if they'd like. Either way.
Yes, hello, this is Brian. Unfortunately, we had to eat dinner during this meeting, so the video is off. But we had a question about the where the cushions are going to be placed, as far as specifically the area between each intersection of Upton, where
Yes.
basically the straightest area of Cabot is.
Yes.
We oftentimes people basically not racing each other, but flying down that straightaway, whether it be in a car, a low riding car, or motorcycles. Do you have any data, or can speak on to what would happen if one of those extremely fast cars happened to lose control? I mean, I know that's hard to predict if they will or not, and nobody can keep them from crashing into a house. But do you have any sort of thing to say about that, or any data that you could rely on that would give some sort of prediction?
Well, I think if a car is speeding and driving dangerously, that's a really bad thing. So I want to make sure I understand the question. Are you asking what the change in that result will be if speed cushions are installed?
Like, well, like especially mainly for motorcycles, really. Do you think that, or have you had experience with them just dodging the speed cushions and going through where the emergency vehicle gaps are?
Yeah. So I'll be very honest, like, yeah, that's very possible. It is very possible that motorcycles may choose to go in the gaps of the speed cushions. We've heard that comment before, and it's very valid. So like, it's possible. I mean, yeah, that's the honest truth. The response would be, we could look at something called a speed table, which, whereas you see these speed cushions have the gaps in between, the speed table has no gaps. It's just basically a solid black rubberized device that goes across the entire width of the pavement. That immediately is one thought to kind of not give a gap for the motorcycles to go through. But the counterbalance, I guess, is that then emergency vehicles are definitely having to have both of their axles, front and back, go over the full speed table at each location. So it would probably slow emergency vehicle response times a little more compared to the speed cushions. So that's the honest kind of pro and con to both. And usually we go with the speed cushions normally just to help out the emergency vehicle response times a little more, even though we know some motorcycles may still unfortunately choose to drive dangerously. That's kind of the pro and con we look at on streets, including Cabot Drive.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't stop people from driving recklessly, but and then for the record, we are in favor of this traffic calming plan so far, because something definitely needs to be done on that straightaway. So thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're the engineers at NDOT, and so we just want to make sure we're informing you all, because ultimately it is up to the property owners to vote. So yeah, that's usually the speed cushion versus speed table. I can think of a few other streets in Nashville that we've had a similar discussion, and yeah, that usually will lean toward the cushions. But thank you very much for that. Yeah. What other comments or questions? These are great.
Also from Travis in the chat, do you have to drive on these things daily? I get the speed issue, but at any...
Sorry, Lane, could you repeat that? You faded out a little bit there.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is also from Travis in the chat. Do you have to drive on these things daily? I get the speed issue, but at any speed, these cushions are terrible.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question. Like, if he's asking if I personally drive over the speed cushions daily, the answer is no. I have driven over them many times, but I do not drive over them on a daily basis. And I'll be very honest, that's one of the things that I appreciate about the traffic calming program is a citizen on a street like Cabot Drive requests consideration. NDOT does their prioritization analysis, and Cabot Drive got selected. We, as the engineers, develop a traffic calming design that we think will be effective at reducing vehicle speeds. But ultimately, it comes right back to the property owners on Cabot Drive. That's why I appreciate it. It's because ultimately, the property owners on Cabot Drive, the ones that drive it every day, they're the ones that have to live with it. Some may like it, some may not. And that's one of the cool things that NDOT gives every property owner along Cabot here a vote. So yeah, so if some people are fully supportive, that's great. If some people are not, you'll get the chance either way to vote on it. That's just one of the things I really like about the program. We're offering it up to you and you get to vote on it. So.
And that looks like it's that's all the questions in the chat right now.
Excellent. Yeah, well, this is great feedback and questions. We always love talking about things and the pro and con. What are some other questions or thoughts from the group here?
I just want to say thank you again for hosting this session, and for each of the residents for joining and for asking questions. I think this is a very important project, and I think it's important that we don't wait until somebody's hurt in order to make these streets safe for residents and pedestrians. So thank you again for hosting this and for doing this program.
Sure, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Again, the next steps would be that I'd say in the next 2 weeks or so, we would send out those mailer ballots, and then everyone will get the chance to vote. The design will be uploaded on the website that the ballot directs you to go, so you can review the design again if you need to before you cast your vote. No responses if people don't care or don't respond. It doesn't help or hurt either way. It's just the number of people that respond. And then it's 2/3 of that number that responds a yes. That's the criteria that NDOT will be looking at. So, yeah, are there any other, we want to stay as long as we can to hear any comments or dialogue or questions. Anything else from the group?
Hi, it's Brian again. My mother has a question because she lives on the street too, for Councilman Rowland. Do you know what sort of, if any type of contact is going to be made with residents on the street to encourage them to vote, whether they vote yes or no? Because what if only 1/3 of people vote from the mailers that go out, and that's not really a quorum of the entire street. Some of the folks are older and may not be technologically advanced enough to understand where to go and vote as far as the online voting goes. So will there be any outreach from your office, Councilman, to encourage that or educate those that are unfamiliar with the process?
Yeah, I can say a couple of things. First, thank you for saying my name correctly. Not many people do. Second, I can, Brad, if you can include me on the notice that goes out to residents, I will share that on my council website, as well as send an email to those who subscribe to my newsletters. I think between the ability to receive notice online and in person, hopefully we can capture a representative group of people.
Yeah.
Brad, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, happy to do that, Councilmember Horton. Brian, I will add that we'll send the mailer ballot to all of the property owners that have property along Cabot Drive. And at the very bottom, I know I'm trying to show it on my screen. It may be difficult to read, but that upper left image is an exact example of what the ballots will look like. The text is very, very small, though, probably on some of the real screens. One of the bottom paragraphs says, if you cannot access the ballot via the internet, call Gil Thomas at NDOT at this phone number. And what NDOT offers is for people that either cannot or do not want to vote online, we offer a phone number, and we've had people do this in the past, and the NDOT team is willing to receive the vote over the phone and cast it for them that way. So that is one way that we NDOT just try to work with people who maybe don't want to use the internet.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that will be suffice.
Okay, but council members certainly happy to still send an example of the ballot for when we send them out, so that you can still do your I guess distribution like you mentioned. But I wanted to let Brian know we offer that phone number option too.
Thank you. I have one question. Absent an adverse result of the vote, what's the earliest and latest you can normally expect these to go into place?
Yeah, so I'll go back to this slide.
I saw
real
this.
quick.
I was trying to add it up in my.
Yeah, absolutely. So after the voting concludes, so let's say after the 2 weeks for us to mail it out, after the 6 weeks for the voting to conclude, what we're seeing right now is 8 months for them to get out. Now that's a long time. NDOT recognizes that. NDOT's looking for ways to speed it up. Some of it is getting the materials shipped from the manufacturers of the speed cushion or feedback sign to NDOT. Some of that is just actually the contractor staffing and the ability to keep up with all the successful traffic calming votes that we're seeing around Nashville. So that kind of 4 month plus 4 month, 8 month total after the voting ends. That's kind of an average of what we're seeing, but NDOT's working a lot to look for ways to expedite and decrease that time.
And one question in the chat, when will we know the results of the vote?
Yes, so the mailers will go out in about 2 weeks or so, and then after that, the voting will remain open for 6 weeks. After that, NDOT, it's not me personally, but some of our team members at NDOT, they do communicate the results. They communicate it to the council member. So council member, I would think that you would learn the results of this vote. I also believe that the messaging is sent to whoever applied for the traffic calming on Cabot Drive to be considered, and I will apologize. I do not have that name or contact information right now, but it's always at least one citizen who submits for a road like Cabot Drive to be considered. So usually it's whoever that person is and the council member are both informed of whether it's a successful vote or unsuccessful. That's what NDOT does to broadcast it. Also, if you Google, and I apologize, I don't have the web address, but if you Google Nashville traffic calming, I believe it's the first hit takes you to the Nashville Department of Transportation traffic calming page. And I think near the bottom, there are all the ballot results of all the streets. So I said sort of what who NDOT contacts, the lead citizen applicant and the council member. But if you're not one of those groups that I just mentioned, you can also check that website. And I guess after after about 8 weeks or 9 weeks, and eventually the results of each ballot are posted on there. So that would be another way to find out. Excellent. Anything else from the group? We'll really appreciate your time. We know everyone's very busy. Thank you for taking time out of your Monday evening to spend with us. Again, if you live along Cabot Drive or have property along Cabot Drive, you can expect to see these ballots hitting your mailbox in 2 weeks or so, 2.5 weeks. And then, yeah, please vote. Please encourage people to vote because we want to make sure you all get the chance for your voice to be heard.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you again, Brad, and thank you, Ann.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You all have a good rest of your evening.